Today I'm going to tell you all about the red value finder that I use, where you can get one for yourself, and so let's get started. Today thought I would talk about the value finder that I use because a lot of people have been asking questions about it. This is the one that I use and it's from the Kroll Roberts studio, and I'll put a link in the description underneath. And this is what it consists of. It comes with a red plexiglass square that you can see through. It comes with this format planner and also a mirror. And the whole thing fits around your neck, which is the part that I like the best about it, because once I start painting, I lose track of where I am. But you can get any piece of plexiglass anywhere and it will work for you. I think Dick Blick also sells clear cellophane, like paper ones, which are cheaper. So that's what this thing is. This is I call it I think they call it the MVP, something like the artist's most valuable player or something like that. The other thing that I use as a value finder is a value scale, one of these gray scales. But most of the time, I'm using this. So let's just talk about this for a minute and what it does. So I'm very planful in my paintings, and so one of the things that I will do is something like this. If you look at, I haven't put it up yet, but I'm going to do a video of a portrait I did of James Taylor. And lots of times what I'll do is I'll split my color dab paper up into two, one for darks and one for lights. So if I'm putting in lights or midtones, then they all have to be around the same range. So I'll put the value finder over this. See how they sort of all blend in pretty well together? And now when I bring it over to the dark column, those should all be substantially darker. And you can see that they are. Now there's some, no, they really all are. So even though looking at them this way, I think you can tell some of the ones that are darker, but sometimes I'm really not sure. And if I'm really not sure and I'm making a value decision, then I'll use the value finder to test that out to see, is that as dark as I think it is? Is it indeed darker than anything on this side of the paper? Because my method of working is working usually from darks to lights. I lay in my darks, then I put in my midtones, and I leave the whites of the paper white. So once I've established what that dark is, I can always go darker, but once I'm in the midtones, my rule is none of these midtones can be darker than any darks that I put in before. So that's why this is a very planful card for me. So let's look at another one. This is a really big one that I put on the wall because this is what I'm using currently for all the portraits of the singers that I like to listen to. These are the colors that I'm using in my portraits. And you can see the value changes. Now I can see them with my eyes as well. And I do that by squinting. I just squint really, really, really hard and I can see the differences. But that comes after a really long time of painting. There was a period of time when I used the value finder all the time because I really had a lot of value confusion. I just couldn't tell. I kept confusing brightness and dullness with lightness and darkness. So here's another value card. I'm not sure what this one is about, but let's take a look at it. You know that the yellows are going to be lighter, yellows and reds. So you can see what it starts to do. It neutralizes the color and just lets you see how light or dark a color is in comparison to another color or another area, which is really helpful. Here's another one that I did of light, medium, and dark. This was mixing complementary colors, so mixing red with green. In this case, it was alizarin crimson with viridian. And here's my lights. Boy, that one on the bottom it almost violates. It's not that light. There's my mediums and my darks. My darks are solidly dark and consistently dark, so that's good. So you learn over time how to judge how light or dark colors are in comparison to other colors. Now, some people have written to me or said on Facebook, for example, well, it really doesn't work. In other words, it doesn't work because this window neutralizes reds, kind of neutralizes reds and greens for the most part. Well, let's just talk about reds for a minute. it neutralizes, but I think you can see if I come in really close, you can see there's some differences there. And what I've done is on this one, what I did was I used the value card. So in order to use the value card, you're going to match the notches. So for example, you see where this dark notch is, you can see it pretty much matches. So that would be a value of, let's say, a 1. So, but I don't like to use this as much. I use this because mostly I want to assign a number to a value in a demonstration so that, a student can see that there's a difference in these and also see that some are the same. These two are exactly the same. Yes, they're different colors, but the value is exactly the same. And so that becomes really important if you're making a color value swap out or making a decision about what color to use. So that's what this value finder thing is all about. And I do find over time, well, first of all, I'm a daily painter. I paint every day. So, and every day since 2013. I'm not saying that I didn't get the flu one day or have a medical crisis somewhere along the way, but I really do paint every day. And by painting every day, I think it's no different than doing scales on the piano. I can pretty much make a color dab and know exactly what value that color dab is going to be. Now, charts are really helpful, but daily painting is even more helpful because you will develop an eye for color and value. And I am what I call a value shape painter. So I look at value and shape and I plug that into whatever the mass is that I'm working on. And those masses then make recognizable shapes. So a chart like this is only as good as it is for this particular apple, for example. In other words, if let's say I was painting a fruit bowl, which had a banana in it as well. So now you've got yellow to contend with. Then I've got to make decisions, my light, medium, and dark decisions based on the apple and the banana as well, or maybe the platter that the fruit is sitting on. So you just learn over time to be very comparative. So I'm constantly saying, is that like that? Is that like that? Is that the same? Is that the same? And checking. And so lots of times when I'm making these dabs on cards, some of these were good choices. Some of them weren't. But I have to, and if I make a dab and I realize, no, that looks off to me, I don't think that's going to work, then I just don't use it. So this becomes, in a sense, at the end, all the colors that I tried to use in the painting, although I might not have used all of them. But I find it really, really helpful. And it's helpful in terms of organizing, to have your darks on one side or your lights on the other side, or split it up into darks, mediums, and lights, so that you have some sort of planful way of going at what is a really complex thing in front of you. But in the end of the day, I find this thing very, very, very helpful. I can paint without it, and I do paint without it, sometimes for long periods of time, but I have it right nearby because there are times when I'll think, is that right? Is just that moment where you're just not sure, where I'm just not sure if it's getting too close, to darkness or lightness, and I want to just check and see to make sure which side does it go on, the lighter side where I'm massing all these lighter values, or the darker side where I'm massing all the darker values, or maybe it doesn't fit at all. And at least one time during a painting, I'm going to pick this up and check just to be sure. And I would say 9 times out of 10 I'm correct, but there's sometimes when I'm not. And if I'm not correct, then the whole painting could get skewed. So that's what the value finder is. I'll put it in the description below so you'll know where to purchase it, and it's really, really helpful. All right, remember to keep your paper white, your paints wet. Yeah, remember to keep the whites of your paper white, your paints wet, math for value, mix for color, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.